right, thanks for inviting us to this precious pre-lunch time slot when if we could measure everyone's blood sugar in this room, my guess is it'd be quite low. But Ashley, thank you for joining us. I'm going to do a really brief intro of you because we're super tight on time here. But Ashley is Director of Innovation Development at Florida Hospital. We're both native Floridians, which I think is why we are paired up for this session. Florida Hospital is an acute care, not-for-profit health organization with 7 campus locations around Central Florida, and it's part of the Florida Adventist Health System. Did I get all that right?
You did.
Most of that right?
That was great.
Okay, good. Yeah, and if you've ever been to, you know the town that was developed by Disney in Florida called Celebration, Florida? Have some people been there? Very interesting place. No, I'm the only person who's been there, clearly. But anyway, one of your sites is in Celebration, yes?
Yes, yeah, Celebration Health.
All right, cool. Well, tell us a little bit about how you guys are deploying connected devices, IoT technology, because my understanding is it's both about people wearing technologies or carrying technologies and then also about equipment. So give us kind of the big picture.
Okay, perfect. So the campus that you mentioned next to Disney at Celebration Health, that's also our living lab. It's a 203-bed facility. So inpatient and outpatient, ER, operating room, et cetera, emergency room. So that space is where we actually have the testing of a lot of this development in IoT, digital health, equipment, products, et cetera. And so we have patients and staff badged with an RFID RTLS, real-time location system tracking, so that we can actually collect data from their movement around their processes in care, around the workflow for the nursing staff, the physicians in the OR operating room. And then the equipment that they're leveraging or using during that care is also badged, if you will, or tagged with this RFID technology so that we can start to do analytics on the back end with all of that and understand what's really going on with, really our most expensive resource, which is a nurse. So,
how many years are you into that project, and kind of what was the initial business case of like, here's why the investment's going to make sense?
Yeah, we began the planning in 2010 when we were opening up a new tower in 2011. So that was kind of the start of it. We saw an opportunity with that new construction and kind of new change, and then Affordable Care Act and everything coming out, understanding how do we leverage partnerships and data and understand all the resources that we're utilizing on a day-to-day basis in a much more defined way. Before it had been, performance improvement teams following you around with a clipboard and that sort of thing, which didn't make sense. It's not cost effective. So how could we leverage a technology we were already using to track beds and pumps and temperatures and fridges to look at people and to understand that? So that was where the idea came from, is how do we really leverage and understand what's really going on?
And give us a sense of the scale of the investment. I mean, we were talking tens of dollars, thousands of dollars, millions of dollars?
Hundreds of thousands, yeah. It's hundreds of thousands. It's not too horrible yet because we've really kept it scaled to Celebration Health. We've only had a few that we found, okay, this is something we really want to scale out. And so we've taken it to other campuses like our Children's Hospital and things like that. But at a cost-effective place where, UWB and those types of things used to be, exorbitant prices per square foot. It's not as costly as that.
So before we go to the slide, because you're going to show us some of what's some of the data that's generated by all these devices, but what's an example of something that you have scaled out beyond the Celebration site into some of the other hospitals?
The staff workflow. So as we design units around our growth, we have a high growth area. So we're at over 100% capacity constantly. So we've had to continue to grow. And so we wanted to build out units appropriately, not just build them with a designer thinking it's the right fit. So we've actually scaled out the ability to badge the staff in different locations to know how to actually design the physical unit. So we're using it for architecture design around our new campuses, new units, to make sure we're designing the right workflow for our nurses and patients.
Cool. So do you want to show some of the slides of what the dashboards look like?
Sure. I think we have. Perfect. So this is one of our nurses wearing the badge. You can see on the bottom left corner is what the badge looks like, the new badge. She actually has the old one on, but that's the new one's the smaller scale they just came out with, which we continue to partner and develop with them, the smaller and smaller level. We really know, in digital health there's the discussion now of it needs to be seamless. People need to not think they're wearing anything or know that they're wearing anything. It just needs to be in their clothes, be in what they're doing. And so that's where we're trying to get right now. It's still this kind of god-awful tag, but that's what we're using today. So the staff and patients have that badge, and you can see spaghetti diagrams. You can see the new unit design I referenced. It's hard to obviously tell from there, but you get the idea. And the key to the spaghetti map to the left of the nurse there was the win component for the nursing team. Obviously, they could see this as Big Brother, which of course they did in the beginning. So we had to be very transparent and secure about who sees the data, when do they see it, that sort of thing. Is it blinded? Is it not blinded? So we actually gave everyone who's badged access to their own data. So they can pull it up at any time, see what we see what's going on, question it or say, that doesn't look right, I don't think I did that, is it accurate, that kind of thing. And so that's been a key part to keep the nurses coming along with us on this journey. So.
All right, and the design chart on the right side of the slide, so that, what sort of insight did you get that nurses were doing X, Y, and Z, and so we should design the unit this way?
Yeah, so we found the original design before that one had basically the entire unit was a mirrored unit, so you could basically put a line down the middle and you have two of the exact same unit. And we thought that would be great, but in reality, it wasn't efficient for their flow. They still kept everything to the front of the unit. They barely used the back part of the unit, the back nurse station, the back med room. Even if they had patients back there, they would still do their work up front. So it was very interesting to watch the dynamic of some of the things we had caused because we kept charts. We still have some things, they're about 8% of things are still paper. Not everything's, non-paper yet for the chart. But some of those things would be kept up front. Physicians would come into the front. The nurse didn't want to miss Dr. Smith coming in. Mm-hmm. So because of those things, they would still be up front. And so there was a wasted space really happening in the back. So how do we leverage that? So that was the changes we made. We put some of the offices back there to leverage the workspace in a different, more centralized fashion.
Cool.
So.
On the equipment side of things, was the biggest impact just knowing where all this equipment was? Was some of it about, well, gee, what stuff is super highly utilized, and so we need to buy more of that? Was there some, probably isn't a lot of theft of like someone walking out with an MRI machine or a
Well, not the MRI machine, but anything else they can fit in those bags, they will walk out with.
Oh, really?
So we have a lot of things on eBay that, or the police know if they sees our tag, it comes back to us. There's just a lot of that happens, unfortunately. But people, they pay a big bill for healthcare, unfortunately, and so they think, well,
they take the TV home with
this
them?
goes with. We actually had some people we had to trespass the other day that walked out with a TV. So you do have that. Oddly enough, they thought it was theirs. It's in my room. I'm going to take it with me. So with the cost of healthcare, I guess you could see that. But so we have tagged things that are probably the easier things, like the little heart monitors, things like that they just assume, well, I paid my bill, I'm taking this with me. And so we've tagged things like that would go missing constantly. Wheelchairs would be found more in the homeless sections of the community. Those folks would tend to use those as their buggy. So things like that. But it was more for, obviously there's that component of cost savings of keeping the equipment, but then there was the side of how are we utilizing it? Are we buying the right amount? You've got a vendor coming to you, you need 100 more pumps. Well, do I really need 100 more pumps? So let's see, are they sitting idle for 5 hours a day? How are we using them? And this technology allows us to see that.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
What's an example of challenge or snafu that you had to deal with in this deployment or these deployments?
Yeah, oh my gosh, quite a few. It's fun to innovate. You get a headache a lot. There was figuring out how to fit it into the existing infrastructure and culture, really. It really came down to the culture component of, well, why are we doing this? We have this, or why would we do that? And getting people to understand why we're moving in this direction. So it was really that people and process piece. How do you align the two? Getting IT on board, they were very stuck in the past world where it's just, IT dictates what you do, and this is the roadmap we're following. And so we had to get them on board with strategy and why we need to change and look towards digital health solutions and all of these other components. So it was really the culture.
So it was IT's role to kind of go around and install all the antennas around the building and things like that?
Yeah, so the resource piece of it, we actually had to... there's a whole team now, actually, that is their job to manage this every day. So the resource component became a huge snafu we hadn't thought about. We didn't realize it would take that much more IT folks to support. So I had to work through that. The mapping of it, you're leveraging your current network and infrastructure, and everything's wireless now. People are bringing their phones in, pinging your wireless. So it's really, we found that things weren't working properly. We didn't have the accuracy. We weren't getting the signals we wanted. It was kicking people that were patients in their room on their laptop. It was kicking them off because there was just overload. So things like that, we had to really start to back up and think through. So,
are there some connected device or IoT technologies that you guys have consciously chosen not to deploy, either because you felt like they didn't make sense in the hospital system, or you felt like maybe the technology wasn't ready for prime time?
Sure, we actually have a few. We have a number of people, obviously, that come and want us to do it because it's in a live space, and so that's the best efficacy test ever, is putting it in a live environment. But we've had many that it really is, when you look at what it is, it's just they're wanting you to buy more stuff. So if it's something that's just going to add cost and add equipment to a space that's already full of wires and pumps and all these things everywhere, we really need to see more than just we're adding something to the space. Can it integrate? Does it offer something that we don't have today? Could it integrate with something that we do have today? For example, the one that we actually said no to a few months ago could have easily integrated with we use Stryker as our beds. So that's what we pushed back on them. And now they've gone and talked with Stryker and looked at how do they integrate, and now we'll consider using them. But before, it was just adding more hardware to the room.
What sort of technology was that?
It was actually this mat, almost the size of an iPad, that you put under the mattress of the patient's bed. And so it's tracking sleep rate, heart rate, all of those, which is great data to have. To basically, their selling point is that it'll predict something adverse happening, so that you could see a change or decline in that patient over time, trending basically. So why not embed that into an existing mattress with a Stryker, for example? So that's what we pushed back, and now they've gone and done some of that work and are coming back. So
cool.
Yeah.
I want to make sure we save time for your questions. I guess my last question for you, Ashley, is just what's next? Like, what's on the roadmap, and maybe tell us a little bit about like what's driving it. I mean, is it purely kind of efficiency, cost savings? Is it something else?
Yeah, we have some really exciting stuff actually next that I'm really excited about. So the digital health space is where we're really focusing now and going outside the walls. So our CEO has made the statement, we will be a consumer-driven market. We want all of our hospital services to be viewed as that, where it's cost-effective. If we're going to, for example, Disney is one of the largest employers in our area. If we're going to say we will take on your employees and take care of their health, then we have to give them the right rate. So that means we have to take out cost. So the only way to do that is start looking at where we deliver care, and that's outside the walls. We've got to start taking it outside. It can't always be that you're admitted. It can't always be that you spend 20 hours in the ER. So we're really looking at that connected space of how we connect with someone, not just when they're sick, but before they're sick, outside the walls. So an example right now that we're really excited about is a startup company I mentioned to you earlier, actually, out in Seattle, Reflex Labs, Inc., and they have developed this product called Boogio. It's a shoe insert for a bionic foot, smart shoe type device. And there's tons of application for it. Where we're starting is actually the rehab space. It's an outpatient area. You come in for rehab. Kids, particularly in our country, have a lot of toe walkers. There's probably some in this room, but based on the statistics, there certainly are, where you start out as a toe walker. And so this can help us understand how they're walking, but also make it gaming. It's a gaming component. Mm-hmm. So if you take the right step or put the right pressure, it can actually give you that, Mario Brothers star sound or whatever would change that behavior. So we're reaching you outside the walls, not just in that hour session we have you a week for therapy. We can now see data continuously because you're just wearing it in your shoe. We can help it be a part of the gaming component for the kid to change behavior, or for adults. So there's a lot of applications with this one we're really excited about, and we just started this partnership actually just a few weeks ago. So
that's cool. Well, there certainly has been like a profusion of technologies that are like either connected pill organizers or pill bottles or just all kinds of home monitoring.
We're actually
stuff.
doing that as well with Smart. It's SMRXT or something like that, Smart RX type of thing. We're actually doing a project with them as well.
And with the objective just to sort of help people get on a better adherence path where like they're taking their medication every day?
Absolutely. It is adherence and behavior. People just don't, one, they don't understand the cost. So obviously pharmaceutical cost is a huge component. They don't take their pills mostly because they can't afford to buy them. So how do we tackle that? But then how do we provide mechanisms for adherence for people that just maybe they want to do right, they just don't know, they need that nudge, they need that help. Mm-hmm. So things like that.
Do you have any other, I know this is an audience that hasn't seen enough slides today, but are there any other slides we should look at, and then we'll take questions? Of course you want
questions. More before lunch.
Yeah.
We're going to get apples thrown at us here in a minute. But this was an OR flow. And so this is a live situation where the surgeons are badged, the anesthesiologists, the nurses, the patients, everyone going through our operating. We have 11 OR suites at this facility. And so it gives the leadership team there the ability to monitor real time what's going on. They can see where people are. They're not running around like chickens with their head cut off trying to find people or things. They can see very clearly. And color codes it. So if the room's brown, it's dirty. If it's blue, there's a patient in it, type of thing. So it's just some cool stuff like that. And then the analytics behind it. Tableau is one of our analytics tools that we leverage. So.